Hey everybody, welcome to Hit Rewind. This episode will be discussing the video games of 1992. I'm your host Michael. My co-host John is on the other side.
Hey there, hi there.
And video games is his presentation, so I'll let him take over and I'll hop in like a crazed rabbit.
Yeah, 92 is definitely an interesting year because there's a lot of good stuff that dropped. Not as much in the arcade, or at least not that was apparently notable. That doesn't mean there isn't anything, and we are definitely got something to talk about down the line. But first, let's talk about a little bit of the businessy things and some cases. Atari dropped all of its support for their 26 and 7800 consoles.
They waited that long?
They waited that long?
Oh my god!
You know, it's like, granted, Atari isn't done with the console game yet. But
Holy
yeah,
shit! I'm just flabbergasted by this. I mean, 7800 kind of makes sense because when did that come out? 88? Maybe?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, but the fucking 2600, that was 12 years old, I think, by then.
Yeah, and no one was buying it because everything had gone over to Nintendo and then now Super Nintendo and Genesis.
Wow.
But speaking of Atari, they got sued by Nintendo because they engaged in a little bit of copyright infringement based on Nintendo's 10 NES lockout chip.
Oh, was it the Tenjin line?
I didn't see which one of that was necessarily, but basically the chip was a thing that restricted the type of software that could be played on their system. Atari went and claimed fair use.
Oh, right. Okay, I remember this case, yeah.
Yeah, but it basically turned out that they were unable to just reverse engineer it. So they obtained an unauthorized copy of the source code and then just used it in their replicas.
Oh my god, that's playing with fire while you're covered in gasoline.
Now, it's like, again, let's be honest. It is well known that Nintendo was and still is pretty draconic with what you can and can't do with your third-party content.
Uh-huh.
But Atari just really went straight up copied their shit, so...
That's fucking crazy.
Now, there was a similar case, which was Sega versus Accolade. Basically, Accolade had allegedly disassembled some Genesis games to get the code that would let them sell unlicensed games on the Genesis, and they also claimed fair use. Now, Sega won this, and then basically they got Accolade to stop producing games for a while, but then Accolade appealed the case, and a second judge found in Accolade's favor.
Okay.
So throughout this little injunction to keep Accolade from producing games, that was still going on. So they basically just kind of settled out of court. So apparently, if you're going to screw around with copyright infringement, you better mess around with... it's only copyright infringement if you're messing around with hardware, not software.
Okay.
But I think we had mentioned this before, but this is the actual time that Nintendo and the Galoob lawsuit based on the Game Genie.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like in 1990 because that Nintendo had the court stop Galoob from selling it at that point, and then basically Nintendo was kind of hoping that this other case, Midway versus Arctic International, was going to set precedent because Arctic had created some game like speed up mods for Galaxian and circuit boards for a game called Puckman.
You mean Pac-Man?
And so Midway won this case because Arctic was basically really, really screwing around with things. But at the end of the day, since there are still Game Genies and that brand didn't die out, the courts sided with Galoob, basically just kind of saying that, you know, it's cheating, sure. It's basically like fast forwarding a movie, not really doing any substantial modifications to any product.
Did you ever use the Game Genie?
I didn't.
I didn't find any interest in either. My roommate did. He used it a lot on the. I remember I want to say there was one for the Nintendo 64. Like they continued for a while, but I never found any interest in it.
Well, they kept going. Like Game Genie died out, but there were other ones, and I recall that apparently some of these ones could actually fuck up your games.
Whoa!
Because it was starting to actually like screw around with the game's code in itself.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, yeah, you were, plugging these things in and playing it through your, an emulator essentially. But
yeah, do you remember using patch codes on PC games? You never needed a Game Genie.
Yeah, I never. There were some things where some mods that I ended up using, like with Doom.
Yeah, I think all of my codes and cheats or whatever with Doom.
But let's see. There was the Philips CDI that came out.
Oh my god.
Yeah, now this isn't so much a video game system as it was a CD-ROM player you plugged into a TV. And, I mean, most of the software for it was educational, or at least edutainment. Now, it did come with, like, some internet functionality. So, effectively, it actually kind of was cheaper than buying a PC with the CD-ROM.
That makes sense, yeah.
But a PC could actually do more than what the Philips CDI could do, so, what was the point? And it ultimately kind of became, they were trying to push it like a game console, and this is why it failed, because the game sucked.
Yeah, legendarily level of suckitude.
Yeah, okay. This is the system that Nintendo this is the only time that they really did this, was license out some of their things. So there was a couple of Mario games on this. And there are 3 Zelda games that, if you've been on the internet at any point and you've seen these broke-ass, weird-looking, MS Paint-looking screenshots and quote-unquote video, that's what these are from, are the Philips CDI Legend of Zelda games. And, wow. I mean, just... But, yeah, basically it was crap games, but it wasn't cost-effective to be a video game console, so it never really had an audience. But something that did have an audience was the Sega CD.
Yeah, surprisingly, people, so do we already have the 32X? That came out, right?
No, that comes out after the Sega CD.
Really? What was the megabytes on the CD then? I thought the CD came after the 32X. That's weird.
Well, it would have been 32, I'm sure, but it was.
Dude, what was the point of the 32X?
To sell people more.
But it does the same thing. This is so stupid.
But basically, yeah, this thing was. It had more storage space because it was running off a CD. It could run full motion video, and that is definitely one of the things that it had over the 32X.
Yeah, but why have cartridges after the CD? You stick with the CD.
Because it was all about making your thing look like it was from the future.
Oh my god!
You got to remember, Sega is dumb.
I know. I just watched the documentary on Paramount Plus, and I read that book, Console Wars. Oh.
Yeah, but the Sega CD had some really, really, amazing, notable titles, because it did have Sonic CD, it had the Lunar games, Snatcher, Popful Mail, and there's one that we'll talk about a little bit later that also debuted in this. But basically, there were 4 games worth noting, one of which I'm going to keep to for a little bit later, but 3 of them that I want to make note of are from the Make My Videos franchise.
Is that the Marky Mark and
NXS, Criss Cross, and Marky Mark?
Was there also CNC Music Factory? I feel like there was.
Maybe that came after.
Okay.
But basically, for these games, if you really want to call them that, you had 3 songs to pick. And you could edit together a thing based on stock footage, band footage, something called special effects, and then other footage. And you basically created your own videos.
What was the other footage? Snuff films?
Probably a little bit more entertaining than what they.
This is us painting Marky Mark's abs on to make him look more sculpted.
But you got to give them a note. These were shitty games, but you had to give them some credit for trying something new.
Oh yeah, and innovation was more important, I think, than the actual quality of the games. A lot of these, and that's why they failed.
Yeah, and again, this was the beginning of full motion video games. There's one of the debut titles was a game called Sewer Shark. It's
Night
not
Trap.
particularly. Yes, there was Night Trap too. That's you spoiled it.
Sorry.
We're gonna talk about that one a little bit later. Well, here, how about a peripheral that came out for the SNES? Didn't last too long, but the Super Scope.
That thing was a beast. It looked like a fucking bazooka, right?
Yeah. And if you've seen the Mario Brothers movie, that's the de-evolution gun.
Oh, right. I hate that movie.
Yep. But here's the problem. There weren't too many games made for it, and the games that were made for it sucked.
Wow,
Heck.
that's a surprise. Nintendo making a peripheral that they bail on pretty quickly and the games mostly suck? That's new!
Now, personally, the only game I genuinely remember playing that was the Super Scope 6, which is the pack-in title. And when I was reading the descriptions of them, I genuinely did not remember what the games were. Like, apparently it's like you had 2 menus to start with, and then each of these 2 menus had like 3 games in them. And I'm still going, okay, I think I was probably playing the bottom set, because I think those were the ones that was like the actual fun shooting games. But yeah, I remember that the scope was never accurate, and it's like I don't pretend to be like I'm good at those type of games, but law of averages, I should have hit something more often than I did.
Yeah.
But getting away from peripherals and businessy things, how about some PC games?
Shoot!
Now, Alone in the Dark. I don't know if you ever played any of those titles.
I don't, but I remember the shitty movies.
Yeah, there was a movie based off this.
A couple.
Yeah, but it's, well, technically not the first survival horror game. This is the first Alone in the Dark is really the one where all the tropes really kind of, you can find it. Like anything that you saw in like the Silent Hills, the Resident Evils, and all that really come from Alone in the Dark. And it's this weird Lovecraftian murder mystery where you're this Sherlock Holmes looking dude, and you're exploring a haunted house, and you're looking for the darkness that covers it. And it's a pretty non-linear game. And a lot of the creatures in it you can't kill, so you actually have to outwit them as opposed to trying to outfight them. Again, hence survival horror. And yeah, the franchise continued on, and they made quite a few of them. And the only ones that are really of any worth noting were the PC ones. Because everything after that was either a Resident Evil clone or worse than a Resident Evil clone. But one of the big games that came out for PC was Wolfenstein 3D.
Yeah, impossible to play now though. It's ugly as shit. It's so pixelated. I have a console version of it. I want to say it was a Super Nintendo. I'm not sure.
Probably.
It's fun to play, but you can't tell what the fuck you're looking at anymore. I don't know how we were okay with this back then. It's so blobby.
Well, because everything was blobby and
Yes.
I mean, you're complaining about it, but at the time, this was the shit. This thing looked amazing. And that's the thing. It's like, this is the game that basically is the foundation for all first-person shooters to come. It's a direct framework for all the corridor shooters that basically kind of arose in between this and its follow-up game that we'll talk about next year. But you're the Allied soldier BJ Blazkowicz, and you have to escape the Nazi prison castle Wolfenstein, and then ultimately fight Mecha Hitler. Because yeah, you fight Hitler, and he's in a mech suit. And he's got 2 Gatling guns, and it's a fucking violent game because you shoot people and the blood's going everywhere, and they're like, my Leben.
That's always what I hear.
And the part is like they also gave away, and this was like the this thing sold amazingly, mostly because they gave away the first part of this game as shareware.
Which was a new thing, right? Was this common
Yeah.
back then?
It wasn't that common that you would just give away parts of your product for people to test out, and then, oh hey, here's give us a call, give us some money, and we'll get you the rest of the product. Usually because it was on the disc that you had. So yeah, it's if you had a way to crack it, you got your game for free, but don't tell anyone. But it's like I never played on the PC. I never played the full version of this. I was really happy with the shareware version. Plus, again, 93 had a much bigger title to come out. But also at the time I was playing my Sega, so how would we talk about Echo the Dolphin?
Ooh, what a beautiful game.
This is amazing. Like, it's a great concept that no one could ever get away with doing this again. Because you're a dolphin, and you have to do dolphin things like swim, and you have sonar that can fuck with some creatures, and you can ram them. But you're a dolphin.
Yeah, unless it's a first-person rocket launching shooter dolphin, it's never going to happen again.
Yeah, and it's like, and this is a game that is insane because there's time travel, and there's aliens that look like the Xenomorph. It's really
I never got that
insane.
far in the game, so I had no idea that was even. Wow.
Yeah, it's like, the whole thing is like it begins off with all of Echo's friends and all this fishing in the ocean around him getting sucked up into space, and then you have to you go back in time and you find out about them, and I forget how, but you end up on the aliens' mothership, and you fight a giant alien head at the end, and you break out its eyes and you dislocate its jaw, and then you win. But let's see, Kid Chameleon. I don't know if you ever played that one.
God, is that where you can change into other creatures? Where you use their powers? Okay, I think I played it.
7 or 8 masks that you could transform into, and there's 103 stages in the game, which is one thing that they always made sure to tell you. This game is long. You have a bunch of stages you can play through, except you can technically play about half of them, because that's kind of how your main path of the game is only 50 stages or so.
Uh-huh.
But there's other routes you can take throughout, and other secret levels you can find. But you had these masks that you could find that could turn you into a sword swinging samurai. You have this tank riding skull guy, a weird lizard dude, all kinds of stuff. And it gave you made you feel like you had a lot of freedom, because every time you find these masks, it changes kind of how the game played. So you kind of, in a way, spend a lot of time trying to figure out your play style and puzzle your way through these stages using what felt good to you. Now, here's another one, Desert Strike.
Ooh, I love Desert Strike. Ooh, I love this whole franchise. This is the very first game I ever played on the Genesis was Desert Strike. Because there's Jungle Strike, Urban Strike, and Desert Strike, right?
Yeah, Desert Strike being the first one. Because that was based on the little skirmish that is going on or had just ended in Iraq.
Such a fun, good game. It's more strategy than I think. It's a blow-up game, but I mean, it's mostly strategy and timing. You got to get to this in time, and don't miss this and protect this and that kind of stuff. Yeah,
because every stage that you're on has specific things that you had to do. So it was, you need to rescue these hostages. You need to do this. You need to blow up this airfield. Okay, you got to attack this nuclear plant. But you only had a specific amount of time to do everything in, and again, it left it open for you. You could do these things in whatever order that you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
You could look around for secrets, find power ups, all that kind of shit. It was definitely one of the best games made for the Genesis, hands down. I don't think it gets as much love as it should, and that's a shame, because it's it spawned a franchise that also sadly kind of trailed off. But one franchise that didn't necessarily trail off, Streets of Rage. And Streets of Rage 2 came out in 92.
Did they reboot that just recently? Am I wrong?
Streets of Rage 4 came out 2 years ago. And still plays like Streets of Rage feels.
Okay, cool.
But
I'm assuming excellent graphics.
yeah, it looks much cleaner than all that. Look like a cell shaded version of what you get in this. But this is, even with that reboot version, this is certainly the best entry of the Rage series. When one of the heroes for the first game gets kidnapped, you, Axel and Blaze, must go after him with the guy's younger brother, who's named Skate, and he runs around on rollerblades.
How in
And then-
1992? Was he a
Yeah.
part of the rollerblades?
Oh yeah, and then you also have a pro wrestler friend of theirs named
Wow.
Max, who was also in that. And you had every character was given like character specific super attacks. They beefed up every aspect of it, and it is probably one of the best brawlers ever.
Okay.
Like Final Fight's really good. The Double Dragons were really good. This saw what everyone did before that and said, "Hold my beer. We're gonna make this the game to play." And even when they tried to when they did their sequels, and again, even number 4, they still can't match what 2 did. And finally, another 2 that came out, Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
Is this when they introduced Knuckles?
This is not when they introduced Knuckles.
Okay, I've only ever played the first Sonic, so I don't know much about the franchise.
Sonic 2 is where they bring in Tails,
Okay.
aka miles per hour, which I did not realize until years later, because it's Tails per hour is what is kind of like how the character's credited. Miles per hour.
Ah!
Yeah, I was a dumb child. But basically, this is the sort of thing that if you're going to do a sequel, it's what you kind of want to do. You want to make the stages bigger. You want to make them, you want to extend everything that you're doing with it. So there's even, as much as there is lore in the Sonic franchise, it expands kind of the lore and what it is that is going on between Sonic and Robotnik and all that stuff. And this is, of all the Sonic games that I've played, this is the one I've never beaten. Because I get to that last boss, and he just kicks the ever-living shit out of me.
Oh, I'm sorry. That sucks.
Oh, it's a pain in the ass, and it's also really, really hard to collect all the Chaos Emeralds in this one. But if you do, in a move that is stolen completely from Dragon Ball, you turn into Super Sonic, which is a golden version of Sonic, like the Super Saiyan from Dragon Ball Z. I mean, almost literally 1-for-1 stole. Which at the time was cool, and then as you look back on it, you go like, God, that's really stupid. But still not my favorite Sonic game. Sonic 3 is my favorite. But a couple of Nintendo games. How about we talk about McKids, or MC Kids?
I don't know this one at all.
Oh, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. I just want
Okay.
to bring up the fact that, like Domino's had with Yo Noid,
Yeah.
McDonald's had a shitty licensed game.
You know what a good food license game is? That 7-Up Spot game. That was good
Yeah,
for the Genesis.
Cool Spot. Yeah, it was surprisingly good. Kirby's Dream Land. It's a Game Boy game, and the first game of the Kirby series.
It is?
It is.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought Kirby
Dreamland-
started years before that. Okay.
No. Yeah, Kirby's a weird little pink balloon guy who sucks up enemies and spits them out or absorbs them to gain their powers. And, I mean, he's a mascot. The game was made for kids. It's really fucking simple. I will give it. I'll give it some credit that the Kirby design was supposed to be a placeholder for something better.
Really? Wow, and it just connected?
And yeah, they just kind of like they couldn't A, come up with anything better, and B, kind of just liked the design in its simplicity. So it's like, all right, we got a character. And yep, that is the character that some people probably only know because they play Smash Brothers.
Maybe. That's probably its biggest exposure.
Now, another game that some people know a character only through, like, say, Smash Brothers and stuff is Super Mario Land 2, the 6 golden coins. Also for a Game Boy. It is not a very good Mario game necessarily, but it is worth mentioning because it's where Wario comes in.
Oh, okay. I was wondering when he came into the series. I had no idea. I guess I was out of the loop when that happened.
Yeah, he's the nemesis in the game, and eventually he's the one who takes over the the Mario Land franchise, because for some reason people really fell in love with the fact that he was this crude purple Mario, and I still don't understand why people like him. He's a terrible character. Contra 3 comes out for the SNES. Now, Contra, we've spoken about, being one of the most well-known, most influential, and most brutally difficult games ever. Contra 3 is really the best Contra game because you can actually fucking beat it.
So is this Super C? Or is that the one before this?
That's the one before it.
Okay.
This is Contra 3, The Alien Wars. It's the one where, if you've played it, very early on you fight a turtle that spews fire. There's a fight where you basically fight a Terminator in a room where you have to jump up and down on walls and climb and all that kind of stuff around. And it has those Mode 7 graphics where you're basically playing Smash TV against creatures at points. It's a sick game. Like, again, for a franchise that's built around punishing you for wanting to play it, this one at least says, we'll throw you a bone.
Good, because that game is torturous. Even with 30 lives, it's hard.
Yeah. No. Let's, Super Mario Kart. Now, has Nintendo's 4th best-selling game on the SNES, and basically the game that started the kart racing subgenre of racing games.
Well, also, isn't this kind of... No, I guess it wasn't the beginning of the spin-offs. I forgot that there was Dr. Mario. But it does seem like that all of a sudden they're like, oh, everything we could attach the name Mario to. You know, every kind of sport, every event. Well,
it's probably, of all the spin-off games, these are probably the best ones.
Are they the highest selling, or is that still Mario Party? I'm sure Super Smash Bros. Is probably the highest selling.
Well, Super Smash Brothers would probably be the selling, but even then, that's not so much a Mario game. I'd probably say a best selling. God, would it be Mario Party? Yeah, you know what? I might say Mario Party may be the better selling of those two franchises, but that's not based on me looking up or doing any research whatsoever. But you get to pick one of 8 Mario or Mario adjacent characters, because Donkey Kong's in it. And now, this is kind of fucked up. All the characters have their own levels of acceleration, handling, and speed, which, when I was reading that and doing the little bit of research for this, I didn't remember that. So I looked up screenshots, and they don't fucking tell you that. So if it always felt like, say, Toad was faster than, like Toad was faster than everybody else, but, it's like Luigi handled better, yeah, it wasn't your imagination. It was actually because they did.
But no one bothered to tell anybody. Like, I'll figure this out later.
Yeah, you just had to figure out what worked best for you. But basically, you drive these tracks. You can pick up power-ups that you can use against other people. There was no demonic blue fucking shell to fuck with the leader of the race. Because at that time, it was just having fun instead of ruining friendships. But yeah, Mario Kart. I don't think it's the best of the games, but it's definitely one of my more favorite ones of that franchise because that franchise went to shit pretty quick.
Did it? I didn't know that.
Well, they started doing like the Double Dash where you had two characters on a cart that you could swap between.
That's weird.
And yeah, I forget what like 64 was and all that good, but that's mainly because everything about the 64 sucks. But yeah, I remember there's a few of those games that just I stare at, and I know those are some people's favorites, and those people are wrong. But okay, last one for the SNES. Probably one of my favorite, not my absolute favorite game of the whole system, but of its line. Definitely my favorite game of it. Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. I mean, seriously, this is the last Zelda game I genuinely liked until Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, I haven't played anything since. I don't think I've since what was Super Legend of Zelda. What do you want to call it?
Well, there was Zelda. There was Zelda, Legend of Zelda, Zelda 2, then this, and then they went off to like Ocarina of Time, which is like everybody's favorite.
I might have played Ocarina of Time. When did that come out?
That was 2000 some. No.
Never mind. No.
No, it could have been 2000. Maybe, I don't know. It was a N64 game. But again, it's on Nintendo 64, and their controller's bullshit, and made everything you did a chore. So it was not a fun game. Plus, also, by the time that game came out, there were much better games on the PlayStation. So sorry, but fuck Ocarina of Time. Anyway, this is one of the games that really built the mythos of the Zelda games, because you had the two worlds that you're traveling in between. You had a lot more of a mix between RPG and the action elements. I mean, even more so than the first two games.
Yeah.
This had a actual story. There's a lot of stuff where it's like, because of this, though, it also is where all the convolution of the Legend of Zelda storylines happen. And I'm never going to go into that, but if you really want to look it up, God be with you. Because trying to follow the bullshit that is the Legend of Zelda franchise's lore, you might as well just... It's Hideo Kojima level of stupid and confusing. But yes, get a chance to play this one. This is the best of the franchise, 100%. For a couple of arcade games, first we're going to talk about Virtua Racing.
Oh yeah, I remember that game.
Yeah, the first game in Sega's line of Virtua titles. It was a 3D F1 racer, and was basically the reason why 3D polygons became a thing. And really, this is also the game that was the foundation for a lot of 3D racing games that followed. Not just 3D polygons, but just racing games in general.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent a hell of a lot of time playing this one.
Yeah.
Because again, oh my god, look at this! This looks so real!
I think the one that I spent the most on, though, was it California Rush? What was the one with LA Rush?
Oh, there was San Francisco Rush.
San Francisco Rush, and there's let's see, what was it? Shoot, maybe was it California Rush? I can't remember now. I'm starting to combine names of games, but it's something like that.
Yeah, there was one that was basically like a drive through California, but there was like specifically like San Francisco Rush, and then there was like a future version of San Francisco Rush.
I'm looking it up right now while you talk.
But yeah, so I don't have a ton of notes because really you don't have a whole heck of a lot you can say about Virtua Racing, because basically, if you looked at it now, it looks like dog shit because it's early 3D polygons, and it's just the most
Cruising
basic...
USA.
There you go. Yeah, because then there's Cruising World.
Yeah. These are
That was
expensive as shit.
Wow. Bag. Okay. Now, the last two things we're going to talk about have something in common. Two of them are arcade titles. One of them is not. And see if you can guess what it is that they'll have in common by the time we get to the end of it.
Okay.
Okay, the first one is an arcade title, and it's Lethal Enforcers. And you had, this is one of the earliest arcade games that featured digital sprites. That now you had this newer level of realism to your games, because these things actually looked like people. And when you shot them, they died. And they went, ah! And it was violent, and oh my god. You know, it's like, this isn't... There were a hell of a lot better shooters that came before this. Oh yeah, and instead of the gun being attached to, you know, like mounted on the arcade thing, you actually could pick the gun up and swing it around. That was kind of cool about it. But games did it better after it, and a lot of these mounted games did it better before it. But yeah, the thing to really note about this was digital sprites with realistic looking people. The next one we did mention before is Night Trap on the Sega CD. This interactive movie where you have to save a group of slumber party teenage girls from a bunch of vampires who are stalking them. And you're watching this through a bunch of surveillance cameras, because that's not creepy in any way.
Not at all.
And you have to trigger traps in this house that is not yours in order to save these girls. It's basically the most crappiest, PG-13ist B-movie shit. You know, it's like the girls kind of had... There's like, I think, one girl that has somewhat sexy lingerie on. Oh, sorry, not even just lingerie, it's like a nightie.
Scandalous!
But, you know, yeah, they're in slumber party clothes, but they're not... It's definitely nowhere near as disturbingly sexualized as many of the, you know, slasher films that had come out in the 80s. And the creatures that are attacking them are the most silliest, dumbest things that, you know, it's like, what, they had, like, what do they even have? They have, like, these weird, like, grabby claw things that would go, like, could go around people's necks and be like, oh, we're sucking their blood or something. It was so fucking pathetically tame. Like, even at the time, it was pathetically tame, but, you know, there's some people who seem to want to have faux outrage about stuff, and some people who really want to shove their morality down our throats about things.
Yep.
Now, the biggest game for us to talk about is also an arcade game. Mortal Kombat!
I was wondering if this was next. Is this all three of them ended up in leading Congress to force ratings on video games?
Yep, this led to the video game hearings that happened. Yes, Midway's gore-tastic fighting game. You know, God damn, this game led to a shit show.
Yes, but it also didn't it free the companies into doing what they wanted to after that. Sometimes we talk about this with the music, and it seems like after that, if you were allowed to rate it, well, all of a sudden it made the artist like able to jump into a new. It's like when movies became R-rated. Every time one of these things happen, people lose their minds. But also, I think it frees people up creatively, like they can test boundaries constantly.
Well, I will say yes and no to that. Yeah, if you had concepts that, you know, never would have gotten past before because everyone was trying to keep things to a PG level, now you could get away with more. Unfortunately, there's a lot of Mortal Kombat clones that followed this that were not. Well, Pitfire came before this.
Did it?
Yeah, but
wow.
But but Pitfire was barely, let's be honest, was barely a game. But this, again, you had characters that looked real because they were actually digitized images of actors.
Yeah.
And when you punched the people, blood came out, and you had finishing moves where you could kill your opponent in fairly tame ways. I mean, it was
cartoonishly over the top.
Like the worst one, really, I think, is still ripping off the guy's head, and even then, it's silly. I don't know if you've ever watched any a compilation of fatalities from the current games.
No, I have not.
Those are pretty fucking hard to watch at times, because they can now do whatever. They basically have carte blanche almost to do whatever you want, and it's just like, oh wow, you're watching a guy getting his guts pulled out through his mouth.
Okay, gross.
And it's considering how quote unquote realistic this is, it was a lot more realistic now. It's like these had a sense of stupid fun, whereas I think they're just now trying to be as gross for the sake of gross.
Yeah.
But like with a lot of things, this had a bunch of spin-offs, spawned movies, cartoons,
comic books,
lots of things that were never age appropriate considering what the game was kind of targeted at.
A Monday morning talk show hosted by Scorpion. Get over here for my new episode. I interview Pauly Shore.
But wow, this this is the beginning of not the end of video games, but the beginning of kind of quote unquote the innocence, I guess, of games.
Yeah.
Because we had
we had Splatterhouse and Texas Chainsaw Massacre and fucking Custer's Revenge and shit like that.
Yeah, but those were also very much outliers. This was thrown out into a main arcades thing, and again, at this point, made people lose their fucking minds. So, 93 is going to be interesting because we're going to have a long chat about video game ratings and all that. Plus, then some other amazing fucking titles, because yes, Doom comes out next year. And I spent a lot of time playing Doom.
Me too.
But that's what I got for 92.
All right, that is it, everybody. Where can we find you online?
I'm on Twitter at MYUZISHION. That spells moon.
Are you still twitching?
I haven't done Twitch in a while.
I keep saying I'm going to, but I never actually bothered to look up how to hook up this thing to the internet. Facebook, Twitter, hit rewind. That's it, everybody. Have a good night. Like, share, comment. Tell me how low energy I am.
Yeah, it's been a long day, so if I sound like I'm not here, I am here. I try to be as much as I can, but I had a long day, and it's hot.
Yo, oh my gosh, I had to walk home in that crap. Yikes. All right, that is it. Good night.
Later.